to the deep dive, where we sift through sources to pull out the surprising facts and crucial insights, making you instantly better informed.
Glad to be here.
So today we're plunging into something many of us have probably encountered, maybe just the smell of it from, Vicks Vapor Rub or an old chest rub. But the full story is, well, it's way more complex and paradoxical, actually, than you might think.
Absolutely. We're looking at Camphor, drawing heavily from William Boericke's Homeopathic Materia Medica. It's a classic text, really detailed.
Right. And our goal today is to unpack its genuinely puzzling nature, explore the incredible range of effects Boericke describes.
Yeah, it's quite the range.
And figure out why this seemingly simple thing was such a challenge, even for someone like Hahnemann back in the day. We'll get into things like being icy cold, but weirdly not wanting to be covered.
That's a key one.
And even how just thinking about pain might make it better for some people. So yeah, expect some surprising stuff about how our bodies can react.
Definitely. And the first thing that really jumps out, you mentioned Hahnemann.
Yeah.
He flat out says Camphor's action is very puzzling and difficult of investigation, even when just observing its effects on healthy people.
Wow, okay. Coming from Hahnemann, that's saying something. He was meticulous. But, isn't every substance's effect mixed with the body's reaction to some extent?
Well, yes.
What made camphor so uniquely tough? Was it just faster or deeper?
That's exactly it. Hahnemann noted that with camphor, its primary action, the drug's direct effect gets tangled up with the body's own vital reactions, the after effects, extremely quickly.
Oh, okay.
And intensely. So this blurring happens almost instantly, making it incredibly hard to tell what's the drug and what's the body fighting back or compensating.
So it's like trying to separate two threads that are weaving together at lightning speed. You almost can't see where one stops and the other starts.
Precisely.
How did he even begin to pick that apart back then without modern tools? Just pure observation, I guess.
Painstaking observation, yeah. To even spot that unique characteristic of camphor.
It really sets the stage, though. You're constantly seeing the substance and the body's reaction almost as one picture.
Exactly. And this paradox flows right into its most sort of signature state, a really profound collapse.
Right.
The classic picture is icy coldness all over the body, like bone-chilling cold. Plus, a sudden drop in strength, and the pulse becomes small, weak.
Icy coldness. Sounds pretty bad. But this is where it gets really weird, right? The not wanting covers part.
That's the kicker. Despite being freezing cold, the patient will not be covered. They throw the covers off.
That's just bizarre. It defies logic. Does Boericke offer any clue why? It's like the internal wiring's crossed, feeling cold, but reacting like you're hot?
He doesn't offer a why in terms of mechanism, but he emphasizes it as a very unique and memorable characteristic. He compares it to Sakal in that specific regard, which tells you it's uncommon.
Right.
And this extreme state, this collapse and coldness, explains its historical use. It was used as an emergency heart stimulant.
How was it given?
Boericke mentions drop doses on sugar. And given frequently, maybe every 5 minutes in a crisis.
Every 5 minutes, wow. That shows how potent they thought it was. Did it get used in big outbreaks? Epidemics? Where that rapid action might be needed?
Absolutely. It got what Boericke calls classical fame during Asiatic cholera epidemics.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
The picture matched. Severe cramps, especially in the calves. That intense body coldness. Terrible anguish, weakness. The whole collapse picture. Even a cold tongue and mouth.
You can almost feel the chill reading that.
Definitely. It was also noted for use after operations if the patient's temperature dropped too low and blood pressure was down.
Any specific instruction there?
Yes. 3 doses of Camphor 1X about 15 minutes apart.
Yeah.
And generally it's listed as one of the main remedies for shock.
So, a major player in really acute life-threatening situations.
For sure.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit, because it's not just about collapse, is it? The symptom list is surprisingly broad. That one about pain.
Ah, yes. Pain better while thinking of it.
That's just fascinating. It feels like such an early glimpse into the mind-body connection way before we talked about it like we do now. Like consciousness itself altering sensation.
Yeah.
How did that get linked to camphor?
It is truly a standout symptom. Boericke lists it clearly. It suggests this unusual link where focusing on the pain seems to somehow lessen it.
Strange. What else? You mentioned colds.
Right. It's listed for the very first stages of a cold. You suddenly feel chills, start sneezing, maybe after a sudden weather change, and you get that runny nose, the fluent coryza.
Okay, so from near-death collapse to the start of a sniffle, That's quite the spectrum.
It is. And then there are significant neurological and muscular effects, too.
Like what specifically?
Well, you might see subsultus. Those are like little involuntary muscle twitches.
Okay.
Extreme restlessness, too. And it's noted for convulsions, different kinds. Epileptiform seizures, even violent ones with delirium or hysteria, and tetanic spasms, where muscles just lock up. Seems to have a direct link to muscles and fascia. Boericke mentions using it for localized rheumatic pains, especially in cold weather. Oh, and cracking joints.
Tracking joints too. It really seems to hit so many different systems. What about sensory stuff? The limbs?
Very sensitive to cold, obviously, but also sensitive to touch. Extremities can feel numb, tingly, and cold. The feet, especially icy cold feet that ache, almost like they're sprained.
Ouch.
And specific pains like rheumatic pain between the shoulder blades. Just general difficulty moving too.
Okay. And the head and face. You often see distress reflected there. Does camphor have a distinct look?
It really does. Boericke lists vertigo, feeling faint, like you might lose consciousness, even feeling like you're about to die.
Intense.
Yeah. For influenza, headache with the cold symptoms, the sneezing, pain described as beating in the cerebellum, fleeting stitches near the temples and eyes.
Fleeting stitches.
Head can feel sore all over. And a specific throbbing in the back of the head, the occiput, that matches the pulse.
Throbbing with the pulse. Got it. And the face itself.
Pale, haggard, anxious, sometimes distorted, often bluish, cold, maybe with a cold sweat. The nose looks cold and pinched.
Paints quite a picture.
And persistent nosebleeds can happen, especially when the skin has that goose flesh look.
Right, the goose flesh day. Okay, that's the external. What about internally? Stomach, breath.
In the stomach, a pressing pain right in the pit. Again, that coldness, sometimes followed by a burning sensation.
Cold, then burning.
The tongue is described as cold, flabby, maybe trembling. And yes, even the breath itself can feel cold.
Cold breath, cold tongue, cold body, but throws off the covers. That cold theme is just so strong, isn't it?
Undeniably. It's a real signature.
What about elimination and sleep?
Stools can be blackish, maybe involuntary in severe states. Urination can be difficult, burning, painful straining, what's called strangury. Or the opposite, retention, can't urinate even with a full bladder.
Okay, in sleep.
Insomnia is listed, specifically with cold limbs, often alongside that restlessness and the muscle twitching of the subsultus we mentioned.
Now here's another one that seems to come out of left field, adding more complexity. The effects on the male reproductive system.
Yes, quite unexpected, maybe.
Increased desire, cordy, priapism emissions. It seems like camphor pushes things to extremes. Deep collapse on one hand, this heightened vitality on the other.
It really does. It highlights just how broadly it can act physiologically. It's not just about basic energy levels, but specific systems in surprising ways.
Does Boericke mention any particular type of person who is more susceptible?
He does mention two profiles.
Yeah.
Scrofulous children, that's an older term, often meaning kids with a tendency towards swollen glands, maybe a weaker constitution.
Okay.
And also irritable weakly blondes. And interestingly, it can sometimes be needed after measles as a sequela.
Fascinating specifics. Okay, after that huge list of symptoms, let's cover the context. Modalities, when are things worse or better?
Generally, symptoms are worse from motion, at night, from being touched, and from cold air.
Makes sense with the coldness.
And conversely, symptoms are better from warmth.
Okay. Now, another really interesting point in Boericke is its antidotal power. It seems to counteract a lot of things.
A huge point.
Yeah.
He states camphor antidotes or modifies the action of nearly every vegetable medicine. Think about that.
Really, everyone. Wow.
He specifically lists tobacco, opium, and worm medicines. It really positions camphor as this major counteracting agent, almost like a reset button in some cases.
A universal neutralizer, almost. Does it have specific remedy relationships noted too? Things it works well with or doesn't?
Yes. It's listed as incompatible with kalinit, complementary to cantharis, and specific antidotes to camphor are opium, Nutrispiritus dulcis, and phosphorus.
Okay. And other remedies it's often compared to.
Carboveg, cuprum, arsenicum, veratrum album. Often remedies known for collapse states too.
Right. Makes sense. Now, before we finish up, Boericke mentions something separate. Camphoric acid. How's that different?
Yeah, it's derived from camphor, but used differently. Boericke lists it as a prophylactic, a preventative for things like catheter fever or cystitis.
A preventative.
Yeah, specific dose mentioned, 15 grains 3 times a day. Also used to prevent night sweats. Very distinct uses from camphor itself.
Good distinction. And finally, dosage for regular camphor.
Boericke suggests the tincture in drop doses repeated often, or even just smelling the spirits of camphor. But he also adds that the potencies are equally effective.
So, various ways to administer it. Wow. Okay, what a journey this deep dive has been. Honestly, it completely changes how you think about camphor. From just that familiar smell
Right.
to this substance with incredibly complex, almost contradictory effects, collapse and vitality, coldness but rejecting warmth, a deep history.
It really highlights the power of just careful, meticulous observation, doesn't it? Studying all the symptoms, even the really strange ones like pain better thinking of it, paints such a detailed, unique picture of how a substance interacts with us.
It absolutely does. And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? That initial struggle Hahnemann had trying to separate the drug's action from the body's immediate reaction,
Yeah.
it kind of invites you to think about that interplay with any substance or any influence, really. What does it tell us about our own body's amazing, sometimes totally paradoxical ways of trying to keep us safe, trying to heal?
It really makes you appreciate the complexity within us. Those self preservation mechanisms are incredible and not always straightforward.
Definitely food for thought.